I made my comments already.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So we're gonna do part 2 now, and now we're gonna show you guys the video clips I have to share. So I'm gonna go to my notebook real quick and see what.
Give the name of the study.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. Those that are watching, we're back for the part 2 of how is transhumanism connected to the end times. So let me see here. Let me just put this up for you guys to read. So here we go. So we're about to start these video clips. How does transhumanism connect to the end times prophecy? So we're going to start now with some clips from Mythology and the Coming Great Deception by Rob Skiba here. I think he did this around 2012, 2013, so this is a pretty old one. I couldn't even find it on his regular YouTube. I had to find it from someone else. So let me see here. Let me actually go. Let me go back and go to my other browser. I already had it saved on. I had tabs saved on. Yeah. So let me see here. So this is the original one. I'm going to play clips from the original and the updated one. So here we go.
And the gods of the ancient world from a biblical perspective. All images, video, and audio clips contained in this video are presented for critical examination and educational purposes only.
Zeus, Surya, Thor. For thousands of years, ancient myths have described gods who came down from the heavens.
Always you have someone who is descending from the sky with loud noise, with thundering, with fire, with smoke. They would have come from the most powerful and magical place possible, from the stars.
But just who were these mystical beings that ruled the sky with supernatural powers?
You could wonder if these tales of Zeus's thunderbolt, Thor's hammer, if these weren't real weapons.
Did our ancient ancestors create the gods from their own imaginations? Or did they simply report events they believed to be true?
Our ancestors misinterpreted extraterrestrials as gods, because that was the only way that they could explain away what they witnessed.
Millions of people around the world believe we have been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. What if it were true? Did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And were the gods of our ancestors actually visitors from other worlds?
Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about mythology and the coming great deception. Now, maybe like me, you like going to the movies or renting movies or watching them on TV or whatever. Lately, I'd say within at least the last year, we started to see a lot of common themes showing up in movies. And I'll go ahead and ask, what do you think these 3 movies have in common? Definitely a lot of special concepts. All 3 of these movies actually depict superhuman hybrid saving the world. The first movie there, they mix DNA and everything with an alien species and create a human-alien hybrid. And in the last 2, it's the son of a god, little g. Son of Zeus in the first one there, and son of Poseidon in the second movie there. The son of God saves the world. Problem is, it's the wrong son of the wrong God. There's a book by a guy by the name of Dr. Ken Johnson. He wrote this book called Ancient Post-Flood History. And he gives a very interesting take on one of the theories of how the gods of the ancient world sort of came to be.
All right, so I just paused that because we have selective clips we can only get through. So he just started talking about how the giants were perceived by human beings. The children of the fallen angels were perceived as deities because they lived so long and all that. The hemerism, it's called. So that the heroes of Greek mythology were actually worshipped by people and they were actually real. So that's basically what he was going to start to talk about. But I want to get to, it's about 18 minutes in, I want to skip to here where he starts talking about the hybridization, what we want to really talk about here.
There's even a scripture, Doug, that says, "For they mistook them as gods."
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I
And
can find that real quick. They mistook them.
to be gods. And that's talking about this generation, I believe,
They mistook.
as well as those generations before us.
I know there's somewhere in the book of Acts where they actually started calling Paul and Barnabas Greek deities. So the idea that these deities were just statues and non-existent seems to be exposed by the scriptures that that's not true, because these Greeks actually understood that Zeus and them were real people. So they're looking at Paul and Barnabas calling one of them Zeus and one of them Mercury. So I mean, if they're just made up out of their imagination, you know, they wouldn't be called they wouldn't be calling human beings that. And it's very possible because, in my opinion, Zeus and them were the Watchers. They appeared as men.
Oh,
So when
yeah.
they see Paul and Barnabas, they're thinking, "Oh, wait a minute, that kind of looks like you know, those guys from Genesis 6 that came down." You know, so in their mind, in their culture, they really thought that they were those guys. So that's something we should really take into consideration rather than just calling it mythology.
And if you recall what L.A. Marzulli found out when he questioned some people in Greece about their mythology, they said they got offended. They said, "Whoa, this isn't mythology. This is our history." They know it was true. It was real people. And that is their history.
Yep, so let me just see here. I think 18 minutes in is where we want to stop it at here. Let's see here. Or 17 minutes is fine.
You don't see pictures of the other guys with man, like this guy. So where did this guy come from? My personal belief is that the scriptures tell us exactly where they came from. Genesis chapter 6, and God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. When you look at this, can you imagine this fitting in the description of creation where God says it was good and very good? This is just nothing but a creator of carnage and mayhem and disaster and death. Right? How does that fit into any of the descriptions of very good? I don't think it fits. I think it fits this description here. There are other books that I am fond of looking at because so the people in the scriptures also did. Moses and other people were aware of these books. Yeshua quoted from them. Jude and Peter and a lot of the other guys did too. So the book of Enoch is another book the Hebrew people are very familiar with. Said that they, meaning the Nephilim, began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish. The book of Joshua says, and the sons of men in those days took the cattle of the earth and the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air and taught the mixture of animals one species with another in order to provoke the Lord. Men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walked on the earth were all corrupted in their ways and in their orders, and they began to devour each other, the book of Jubilees. There's a lot more. I just grabbed a few. What about these guys right here? You see a lot of these kind of creatures in the mythology, especially in the Greek mythology. I was in Crete, one of the last trips I did when I was with the mission organization I was a part of. I had a missionary conference in Crete, and as part of that trip I got to go to Greece, and it was actually my second time going there. And I was walking around Athens, and then on the second trip, I had a lot more time to myself, so I could really kind of go out and explore and check things out, especially in Athens. You can't look anywhere. It's like every direction you look in, you see the toppled remains of a statue of a god or a temple, or you see remnants of, or images of centaurs and minotaurs, satyrs, these kinds of guys, everywhere. Now, I'm a sci-fi fan. I love Star Wars and Star Trek and all that stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, 4,000 years from now, nobody's going to remember Yoda, the little green guy in Star Wars. He was just the creation of the imagination of a filmmaker named George Lucas, who was trying to create kind of a modern mythology, right? So here's this guy, George Lucas. He creates this little green guy, mythological creature. Nobody's going to remember Yoda 4,000 years from now. So why do the people in, especially the Greek Isles...
Hold on, I want to backtrack a little bit. There's a clip that I actually did want to show. See, the original one has the stuff in a different order. My bad about that. All right, so let's go to let's see here. Where does he start talking about it? Let's see. I think it's 21. All right, here we go.
As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. One of the things the fallen angels and the Nephilim taught people to do was the art of mixing one species with another. That's exactly what we're doing today at alarming rates, and it's very disturbing. Now, these are fictional pictures right here. This is real. This is from back in the 90s. They made a little rat, mouse, whatever, with an ear growing out of its back, a human ear. This is from a movie called Splice. I don't recommend you see it. It's a very disturbing movie and inappropriate, but didn't know what we were getting into when we saw it. But it really talks about the issue of transhumanism and mixing species, especially mixing with the human species, with animal species. Now, you need to know that this is something that scientists are very actively at work trying to make happen. There's a guy by the name of Nick Bostrom, who is the director of the Future of Humanity Institute. Okay, here's these guys that are trying to declare what the future of humanity is going to be about. And this guy's very passionate about this. He says in this little circle right here, this represents the sensory modalities that are accessible to humans. In other words, what our five senses can pick up. We can only see in certain frequencies of light and hear in certain frequencies of sound, and etc. Whereas the animal kingdom has this longer area right here. They can perceive more than we can, hear in different frequencies and see, etc. The bats and radar and sonar with dolphins. And they say that, okay, if we could start mixing some of these attributes of animals into people, then this could be the area of sensory perception that transhumans could have, animal-human hybrids. You have to know that people like DARPA, the Defense Agency research projects people, are thinking about how to make the extended war soldiers, super soldiers, essentially. We're seeing a lot of movies coming out, like Captain America is about to come out. It's about the creation of super soldiers. Now, whether or not they decide to make a guy that can run like a horse and, see and everything like a tiger or whatnot, who knows? But you need to know that the people who are the directors of the future of humanity are talking about how can we improve on God's creation, as we would say. This is what he says posthumans could have. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Or better yet, I'll just go ahead and play a video. Hopefully it'll work. Let them tell you in their own words.
There's more computing capacity in a grain of sand that's been nanoteched. There's more computing capacity in that grain of sand than our human beings.
So just I paused it real quick because I just want to show you he's citing his source on the bottom here. It's clips from the documentary Building Gods by Ken Gums. So anyone that wants to check it out themselves, that's where he's getting this clip from. It says available on Google Video and YouTube. It has the URL right down there too. So anyone that's just worried about citing sources, that's where he's getting this clip from. All right.
Brain's capacity by a factor of, billions, right? So imagine a young woman, she's just given birth, and then she needs to make the decision. Is she going to have her baby modified? Is she going to turn that baby into a cyborg or effectively an intellect? So say she decides to do that. So this, hypothetically, this grain of sand, in a sense, that's been nanoteched, is inserted into the human brain, that baby's brain, and it integrates itself into the brain. So that baby, in effect, is no longer human. I mean, think about it. The capacity of that grain of sand is billions of times what the human brain can do. So for, I don't know, 1/1000th of its capacity, of its time, is it doing human things. And the other 99.9999999% of the time, it's doing artilecty type things. So that woman, in a sense, has killed her baby. Killed in the sense the baby's no longer human. It's effectively an artilect. It's an artilect in human disguise.
Now, notice what the scientist, atheist scientist, just said. She lost her baby.
She killed her baby.
She killed her baby, he even said. So if you do this to your child, you make your baby transhuman just because you want your baby to be more advanced than other children. Guess what? You just killed your baby. Even though your baby looks like it's alive in front of you and eating and living, guess what? Now it's a machine. It's no longer human. You have literally corrupt your child. So people that are thinking about doing this, you better think again. Don't allow these scientists and these atheists to convince you. They're admitting themselves you're killing your child by doing this to your child. They themselves, right from the horse's mouth.
Yes, and Scripture would agree.
Flying our brain.
Yeah, they would, later on, once we get into, I think, a couple minutes more into this documentary, you'll see another scientist even say, am I ready to risk the survival of the human race for the sake of making an artilect? And he just laughingly says, yep. These scientists are demonically being influenced, and they don't even realize it. They're being influenced by Satan to kill off Yahuwah's creation. That is the whole point of this. So anyway.
With technology, then it does change us from the word go. Even just feeding in one electrode with maybe an extra sense, an ultrasonic sense, which we know is quite possible, then it starts to give you abilities and you believe you can do things outside the normal realms of humanity. So your values, your morals start to change immediately. You become a cyborg.
What I'm really interested in is to try to understand the bigger picture for humanity, our place in the world, and what might lie in store for our species in the future, particularly the way we might use technologies to enhance ourselves or to go beyond what we currently think of as our human nature, whether it might be by radically extending the human lifespan through solving the problem of aging, or increasing our intellectual capacities, improving our memory, or taking control of our own emotional states. I think that we are right now in a transitional phase where before the end of this century we will either have gone extinct or we will have most likely taken the step to become what you might call transhumans or posthumans, or just very enhanced humans that have reached their full potential.
Because progress is so rapid, I mean, there's going to be more progress in the next 10 years than there were in the previous 20 or 30. Right? So the rate of progress is speeding up. It itself is accelerating. So there's going to be hugely more change, technological change in the 21st century than in the 20th. Far more. So all these weird things that sound like science fiction to most people today will probably be realities in a time, in a fewer number of decades than we had imagined.
I can't see any way that it will not happen. This is progress.
Human beings already, theorists, have done the math. They've got the modelling of how to build baby universes. So if that's possible in theory, with human brains doing the thinking, what could an artilect do? Could it actually build universes? Could it actually manipulate whatever exists to create new universes? Is that possible? Now, if we can do that, then by definition, it's a god, right? It's a creator. Can you sort of sense a kind of almost like a religious awe, almost? We could build gods if we wanted to.
Do you hear the promises of Lucifer there? Extended lifespan, thinking capacity. Let's take it a step farther. we could build gods if we wanted to. Interesting. And I think it sheds light on some of these other scriptures from the lips of the Master himself. He said, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." In Luke, he says, "And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth, distress of nations and with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming upon the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken." Could he be talking about this?
All right, so now we're going to go to the updated version just for 2 more clips, and then we're going to move on to the Age of Deceit stuff. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to backspace here. We're going to go, hold on. Here we go. So this is the updated, newer version that Rob Skiba did. He updated it himself from Google Hangouts on April 17, 2017. I'll leave links to these videos in the description once we put our study up. So here we go. So I'm going to fast forward this to about an hour and 59 minutes. Actually, you know what? No, they actually talk about the Liger stuff. I do want to include that too. So an hour and 21 minutes. All right, here we go. This is also what I wanted to show too.
Just to you that it's not quite as supernatural as you may otherwise think. And I would point to this, if we're looking for science, if we're researchers, being honest with the text and honest with ourselves, looking for evidence, not stuff plucked out of thin air to justify crazy theories that we might have. This is empirical evidence right here of a very plausible way that gigantism could have happened to humans, just like it does in the animal kingdom. You could go to liger.com, and at least at the time when I did this, this was their front page, their home page. And if you look at the names of the Ligers, Hercules, Zeus, Sinbad, Vulcan, they named them after the Nephilim. But now this is scientific, empirical evidence I'm about to show you. Listen to what they have to say as to why these creatures are so big.
This big guy is a liger. Yes, a liger. And trainer Doc Antle and his partner Rajani have the biggest one in the world.
This is Hercules, who is our liger boy, 900 pounds and 12 feet tall. He's a gigantic kid because he's a liger. Father lion, mother tiger makes him...
Father is a lion, mother is a tiger.
Makes him the liger.
Hercules is skilled at, well, eating about 100 pounds of meat a day.
Everything about him seems exaggerated. They seem to live longer. They eat more. We've never seen anything happen in the ligers except bigger, stronger, faster. It's theorized that ligers are this enormous size because the inhibitor growth gene exists in the female lion and in the male tiger. So when you switch around and you get a male lion breeding with a female tiger, creating the liger, you get this gigantic size. Nothing tells it when to stop. In the wild, this enormous size wouldn't necessarily be of any advantage because it would require so much more food. Samson here can readily eat 25 pounds of food in a sitting, where an adult lion can subside on 7 to 10 pounds of food.
Helps you understand why they always refer to the land as devouring itself. I mean, if you got giants going around, they got to eat something, right? I mean, look how much those ligers eat. Now, did you catch what he said? He said the growth inhibitor gene that tells the animal when to stop growing is in the female lion and in the male tiger. So if there's a growth inhibited gene in the female lion and in the male tiger, if you've got a male lion and a female tiger, you don't have that gene. So the tigon is a male tiger with a female lion. The tigons are about the size of normal lions and tigers, but the liger it just keeps growing until it dies. It's huge. Why? Because either the gene has been switched off through the hybridization process, or it is missing through the hybridization process. Now, just think about that. Gigantism is as simple as turning off or removing a gene through hybridization. So we see that there are animal-human hybridization experiments taking place before and after the flood. So could it be through that hybridization process that the gene is missing, or the ability for that gene to be turned off is encoded somehow? I don't know. But this just shows you an empirical, scientific, plausible explanation for gigantism, as simple as messing with one gene. You and I have a gene that told us when to stop growing. I stopped growing at 5'11" at about 15, 16 years of age. Okay, I got to the age and the gene kicked on and said, okay, Rob, stop growing. Well, if you turn that gene off and I just keep growing, then I become a giant. So it doesn't take angels to create giants, I guess is the point that I'm making here. Now, again, the earliest evidence of any civilization points to the 3000, 3500 BC time frame. According to the books of Enoch, Joshua, and Jubilees, that's when the Watchers...
Oh, just to add, according to David Wilcox, who's a New Ager, mind you, he has come to the same conclusion as Rob Skiba, that somewhere around this time frame, the gene pool of humanity changed by 7%. So a guy that's a New Ager, doesn't even believe in the Bible, has came to the same conclusion, that something happened to our DNA. So could it possibly be the sons of Elohim? See, the only difference with the New Agers, they'll try to say it's so-called aliens. So they actually understand what has happened in 3000 BC and all that. So they actually understand it. Unfortunately, they have the wrong interpretation of what happened, but they actually understand about visitors from a different dimension messing with the gene pool of humanity. But anyway.
Landed on Mount Hermon. It is the time of the Genesis 6:4 Nephilim. Sometime shortly thereafter, the Sumerian religion influenced Mesopotamian mythology as a whole, surviving in the mythologies and religions of the Hurarians, Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and other culture groups. Now, this has caused some people to question, did Moses, when he wrote the Torah and the creation account and whatnot, did he just copy the Sumerian text? Some of the oldest texts that we have on the planet are like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the creation epics and stuff like that from the Sumerians. And there are some similarities, and it's caused some people who don't want to believe the Bible to say, Moses just copied the Sumerian text. I don't think that's the case. I think that for a few hundred years or so, this guy right here was given the opportunity to tell the story his way. This guy was thoroughly pagan. This is Nimrod right here. Okay, I think for about 800 years or so, after the flood, this guy and others like him were able to twist and distort and tell their messed up version of history as taught to them probably by the Watchers and others. And I think finally when Moses shows up, God says, okay, Moses, why don't you come up here? Let me tell you what really happened. Ready? In the beginning. You taking this down here? Okay. In the beginning. So I think that's what happened there. Now, regarding Nimrod, we see that the whole world was of one language. We read about this in Genesis 11, and they were gathered together under his leadership in the plains of Shinar, and they decided they were going to build a city and a tower whose top might reach into heaven, which I contend, again, has nothing to do with height. I believe he's creating essentially a stargate.
All right, so he's pretty much reiterating what I was just saying. So that's why I paused it there. Let's skip a little bit here to 159 mark, where they start talking about eventually this is going to become a Terminator scenario. Okay, so here we go. And this is from Nick Bostrom and the other guys.
I mean, is this a vision of things to come? We've seen it in the movies, and we've seen, various depictions, Photoshop and whatnot. If these guys are able to do what they're trying to do and continue to do it, I believe this stuff, we're going to see this stuff. And it's not just the blending of animals with humans. as you've seen, it also includes technology. And regarding this whole idea of blending with the machines to become like the Borg and the whole Ray Kurzweil's singularity and stuff like that, listen to what they're planning and what they're thinking on the technological front.
To transfer your mind to a computer, this seems to be the ultimate dream of many scientists. To liberate us from our old body that is becoming obsolete in this technological world.
So in a way, mind uploading is a shortcut around artificial intelligence that will allow us to have machines with human minds.
We will be able to inject a certain number of nanobots into our bodies, where they will locate our brain cells and copy their function. With no effort, we will get a hardware copy of our consciousness that will then send a software copy to a computer, where more copies can be made, or where our consciousness will be allowed to merge with other souls and software programs.
We are going to get to the Terminator scenario. That's what I see. Intelligent machines calling the shots. Humans, some subservient slaves is the best. Maybe on farms if we're lucky and so on. Looking at how we are ourselves now, I don't think the future is good. If you are a human after the singularity, forget it. There are certainly some humans that are against having implants, that are against becoming a cyborg and having extra abilities. It's difficult to see much of a positive future existence for them. That clearly the world is going to be dominated either by intelligent machines or cyborgs, or a combination. That's where the future's going. And as a cyborg, if a human came to see me and it starts making silly noises, a bit like a cow does now. If a cow comes to me and says, moo, 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 I'm not going to say, yeah, that's a great idea, I'm going to do what you tell me. So it will be with a human. They'll come in and start making these silly noises that we call speech and human language and so on. And these trivial noises, I'm not going to do those silly things. Why should I? This creature's absolutely stupid in comparison to me.
And as the technology becomes vastly superior to what we are, then the small proportion that's still human gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just utterly negligible.
There's more computing capacity in a little grain of sugar when it's nanotech, 1 bit per atom and flipping back and forth in femtoseconds. There's more computing capacity in that grain of sand than our human brain by a factor of, I don't know, billions or something. So these machines, if we, humanity, if we decide to build them, we're building gods. Consider the analogy of the way we, as human beings, we look towards ants or mosquitoes as pests, We kill them and we don't give a damn because we feel we're so superior to them. They are so inferior.
All right, I'm going to stop it there because this is something we should learn from as human beings. We should not be thinking of insects like that. These are creatures of creations of Yahuwah and Yahusha, and it's actually what he's saying is right in a way. We think they're insignificant to us, and we shouldn't be thinking that way. So it's kind of like you reap what you sow. So there's going to be people that, that people like us, if we're left during the tribulation, this is the dangerous part, is that the people that he's talking about are us, believers that don't want to merge with the machines, that don't want to become transhuman. And he's saying they're, physically speaking, I don't see much of a future for them. Basically, they're hinting to extermination. They're letting you know, yeah, guess what? You're probably going to be killed if you don't merge with the machine. So they're giving you a little bit of truth in plain sight there. They're telling you, listen, this is what's going to happen. If you don't want to become a Borg, like Star Trek, you're gonna be killed. That's what they're trying to say. So, this is a warning to people. This should really be a sobering message from this documentary here. This is the times that people that are not counted worthy to escape that some believers are going to be going through this stuff, and we need to keep ourselves prepared just in case it happens. I'm not saying don't try to become, part of the 144,000, but always keep in the back of your mind, this stuff is going to be happening in tribulation. If you have to go through the tribulation, you got to keep your mind steadfast that if the Father has chosen you to go through the tribulation, then you got to be ready to endure through the end, through all this mess. So this is a sobering message, and I'm not trying to be a fearmonger. I just want to put this out here for our brothers and sisters. This is the reality of what the tribulation is going to be like.
And I'd like to bring out this one thing, Doug, that this will no doubt be part, at least, of the mark of the beast, that Revelation 13 and verse 17 talks about, that no one should be able to buy or sell except he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And here's what is the problem with taking that mark. In verse 9 of Revelation 14, and a third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark in his forehead or upon his hand, he also shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahuwah, which is poured out undiluted unto the cup of his wrath. And he shall be tortured with fire and sulfur before the Kadesh messengers and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, those worshiping the beast and his image. Also, if anyone takes the mark of his name. But the Kadashim are those guarding the commands of Yahuwah and the belief of Yahusha.
Yep. So that we're going to have to do another part because unfortunately we are running out of time already. We got about 3 minutes and 40 seconds left, and I got a little bit just to show from Age of Deceit 2 that deals with transhumanism also, a couple of clips, and then we'll be done for today's study. But so we're going to need to do a part 3. So please stay tuned, everyone. We're going to do Age of Deceit 2. We're going to be showing clips from my personally owned collection from Amazon Prime of Age of Deceit 2, Disc 2, and Disc 3. There's going to be certain clips I'm going to pick from both discs. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back on. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.